Well, not only did we grow these beautiful pumpkins in our garden, but we are fixing to make one of the best pumpkin pies. So y'all stick around, start to finish. Homemade pumpkin pie. You know, there's nothing that says fall quite like pumpkins. I mean, pumpkins just, you know, you think about fall and what pops into your head first thing is pumpkins. I mean, that's just the truth of it, isn't it? So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a homemade pumpkin pie from scratch, from start to finish, from our homegrown pumpkins. And I've got these little things, they were the first ones to come off this summer. These were my little Amish pie pumpkins. They don't get very big. And then I've got one of my little, this is the smallest one that I ended up with. This is one of it's the Long Island cheese squash. And most of them got pretty big, but this one was a little one. But all I'm needing is about 2 cups of pumpkin puree. So I'm hoping out of these 3 little ones, and it might be a little bit more than 2 cups, but you never know how much you're going to get out of them till you get in there and see. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut these 2 and get them cooked. And once I get these cut, if I don't think there's enough flesh in here for 2 cups of puree, I'll end up cutting this one too. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut into our pumpkins. Like I said, this was an Amish pie pumpkin. It was very easy to grow, and that's just about how big all of them got. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to cut them in half. And I've got my oven heating to 350. And I'm just going to cut it in half just like that. And there's lots and lots of seeds in there. And you can see how much flesh is around that. There's probably about 1 inch all the way around. So by the time this cooks up, and even once this one gets cooked up, I don't know that I'll have a full 2 cups. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this one too. But I've done washed them. And what we're going to do now that we've got it cut in half is we're just going to take, let's see, any kind of spoon, and we're just going to dig out the middle. Let me get this one right here. And we're just going to take out all these seeds, but most of all what you want to do is make sure that you get all that stringy stuff out of the middle of that. Even if you have to take some of the flesh, you want to make sure that you get all that, because if you don't, you're going to have a very odd texture in your puree. So you just keep scraping. If you didn't grow any pumpkins, you can get some at the store. You can also get some at the farmer's market. This time of year, there's a lot of little farms around that's up here in our area. We have different little farms that do fall festivals and stuff that grow pumpkins and all kinds of squashes, and they have little just activities and stuff for kids to do, hay rides and stuff like that, where you can get all kinds of pumpkins. And I'm sure there's something like that probably in your area too. But you can get them at stores right now too. In fact, at Walmart, I seen a bunch of pie pumpkins the other day. So like I said, just make sure you scrape that as good as you can and get pretty much, you want to get pretty much all that if you can, because you sure don't want that texture in there. Get all them seeds, and I will save the seeds. You can save the seeds if it's an heirloom seed, and or you can roast them, roasted pumpkin seeds. So I'm going to scrape this one, and then I'm going to cut the other 2 just like this in half, and we'll get the seeds scraped out and all that stringy stuff, and then we're going to put it on our cookie sheet, and then we're going to stick them in the oven anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. Now I wanted y'all to see the inside. This is my Long Island cheese squash. It's the little bitty pumpkin that I grew. I wanted you to see the inside of it too. And it's got about an inch, a little over an inch of flesh inside too, on both ends of it. So I think between these three, I should have pretty good 2 cups full of my puree. So I'm still cleaning these out, and I got my other 2 cleaned out. This one really smells good. Not that the other one didn't smell good, but this one just, it really has a like almost a sweeter pumpkin smell, if that's possible. And I think what I'm going to do with these seeds, I think I'm going to keep them and clean all this good and separate it from all the stringy stuff. And I think I'm going to roast these. I'm going to keep them and roast them. If you've never had a homemade pumpkin pie fresh, you're really missing out. And you know, we really love pumpkin pie, whether if it's fresh from a fresh pumpkin or if it's out of a can. My whole family loves pumpkin pie, especially my girls. In fact, my oldest daughter has a birthday coming up, and I'm sure she's going to want a pumpkin pie. She'd rather have that than any cake or anything like that. So we about got them all cleaned out here, and I'm putting them on my cookie sheet, and I've got parchment paper underneath it. You don't have to oil it, you don't have to spray it or nothing like that. You're just going to cut them in half, clean them out, 350 preheated oven. Anywhere when they're this size, I'll check them at 30 minutes, but anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes your pumpkin flesh inside should be done. I just can't get over how good that smells. I think I'm really, really going to like these pumpkins that I planted. So, let me get this out of the way. Here I've got them on my cookie sheet. I need to scoot this one over just a little bit. Whew! That one was slick. Okay, there we go. It's on my cookie sheet. I'm going to take them outside to the outdoor kitchen, put them in that oven, keep from heating my house up, and we'll check in about 30 minutes. Pumpkins are cooking while they're baking. We're going to go ahead and make our crust. I've got 1 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, and I've got a teaspoon of salt. I've got a tablespoon of sugar. And we're just going to stir that up. And this is going to make 1 9-inch pie shell. And then we're just going to take a whole stick of chilled, cubed butter. Now, most of the time I make my pie crust with rendered lard. Most of y'all don't have rendered lard, so I thought, well, we'll just do one with butter, because most of y'all do use butter in your pie crust. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut this butter with the blending fork. Just cut it into our all-purpose flour. Now, if you don't feel comfortable, or if maybe you just don't have time to make pie crust, I mean, by all means, use a store-bought pie crust. Somebody probably say, well, you know, if you're going to make it homemade, you might as well just make it homemade, you know, all the way. But there's just sometimes, especially during holidays, when you are so busy that you need that little bit of help. And during the holidays, I can tell you right now, Miss Lori does cheat a lot, because I will make homemade pie crust, but I also will get store-bought too, because I make a lot of pies, and I'm also a busy woman, so you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to get it done. And that's what they say about most anything. So my butter was really, well, it had been in the freezer, so it's really chilled. So it's going to take me just a little while to get it cut up into my flour. Now, this recipe that I'm going to be using for my pumpkin pie today, you can also use the same recipe just using canned pumpkin, because it'll work with either. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get all this cold, chilled butter cut into your flour when it's that cold. But it's just so worth it if you just take your time. Don't always be in a hurry, thinking you got to be in a hurry when you're cooking. Oh yeah, I like stuff that's fast and easy, believe me. I've always been a person that's been on the go, busy life, but sometimes, just sometimes, I'll slow down, let other things go, and take my time to put a little bit more love into something sometimes. Oh, I can remember back, and I still cook Thanksgiving dinner, but this was back when the kids were all at home and they were younger, and we lived on the big farm. And of course, when we lived on the big farm, I had family all around me, and I would make a big Thanksgiving dinner, and we had friends and family and everybody that would come over. And I would cook for days and days and be so tired by the time we got done, but it was so worth it. So worth it. I wish I still had that kind of energy that I used to have, that's for sure. I tell people, you know, I used to, in my younger days when I had 4 kids, you know, Danny would be on the road trucking, and we had the farm, and I'd be there working, plus take care of the farm and the kids. But it wasn't nothing for me to be up at midnight doing laundry, getting caught up on stuff, maybe starting supper for the next day, who knows. But now by 8 o'clock, I turn into a pumpkin. I just can't do it. Y'all, I had to get my hands in here. I like to feel it, because if I can feel it, I can tell when it feels right. But all you got to do is just work that butter in till they always say till you get these little pea-looking pieces in there. But sometimes I'll leave a few little hunks of butter, and that makes for a wonderful pie crust. I've not made a pie crust in, well, I made fried pies the other day. Did I make a homemade pie crust? I can't remember. It's been a little while. I've not really made pie in a while, to tell you the truth. I don't do as much baking in the summertime. Okay. I'm going to keep that. So we got all that done. So all we have left is our 1/4 of a cup of very cold ice water. And I just pour a little bit in a time. I don't pour it all in there. And you just work it together till it comes together. You can do it with your blending fork. You can do it with your hands. You could do this in a food processor. I choose not to get all that stuff out when I'm doing something like that, because it's just one more thing that has to be cleaned and put up. But a lot of people use their food processor to make their crust, and that's just fine. I'm going to put me a little bit of flour, and I'm going to put my crust out here. So I didn't use all that 1/4 of a cup of cold water. You just never know. I'm just going to bring my crust together. You don't want to work it too much. And I'm going to wrap this up with some plastic wrap. And I'm going to put it in the refrigerator for just a little while, and then I'm going to go out and check my pumpkins and see how they're doing. And in my pie crust, I can see little bits and pieces of butter in that. It's going to make for a delicious pie crust. Okay, I know when y'all see me put my pumpkins in here and left that big old stem on there, y'all thought Miss Lori lost her mind. But I haven't, not completely. But I'm going to show you here in a minute why I left it on. And we're just going to kind of run a knife through some of these. You can see they're getting tender. They are getting ready. Getting soft. So I'm going to show you why I left that stem on there. And this is just another way that you can tell that your pumpkins are getting done and getting tender. I mean, you can push on that stem and it'll just fall right off there. Your pumpkins should be getting done. Now we're just going to go in there and we're going to get the flesh out of them, scrape them out good, and make us some puree for our pumpkin pies. We're going to go ahead and get our pie crust out. It's been in the refrigerator about 30 minutes, so it's good and chilled. And I'm not going to work with it a whole lot. We're just going to put a little bit of flour out here. Put a little bit of flour on it, keep it from sticking. I'm just going to use my little roller here. We're just going to turn it and roll it and turn it and roll it. Like I said, I'm not going to work with it much because I did use butter in this crust, and the more you work with it, it's going to heat that dough up, and that butter's not going to stay cold. So we're just going to roll it out and get it rolled out about the size we need for our pie pan. It's going to be a really good crust. Now we got it in our pie pan. We're just going to trim some of the edges off. Then we're going to crimp it, and not going to mess with it too much. And it's ready for our filling. I want y'all to look how pretty color that pumpkin is. This is going to be some really good pumpkin puree. I'm telling you, the color's beautiful. It tastes good. And I use my immersion blender here to get it to the consistency that I wanted. You can put it in just regular blender if you want to. Mix it up really good. I'm going to add 3 eggs. My eggs aren't real big yet. My girls are still young. They're still laying kind of smaller eggs. I've got 1 cup of evaporated milk. You can make this dairy free, and you can use coconut milk if you want to. It makes a really good pie too. You know, there's really nothing any easier to make is a pumpkin pie. And it's just always everybody's favorite pretty much. Now, I say that, and I do know several people that don't like pumpkin pie. They don't like anything pumpkin. I'm going to walk over here and I'm going to get my vanilla, because we're going to put a good teaspoon of vanilla in it. And I've got 3/4 cup of light brown sugar. If you've got dark brown sugar, you can use that. And here I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. And I've got about a tablespoon of flour. And that's all there is to that. And we're just going to mix this up good. Get everything stirred in there good. Then we're going to pour it in our pie shell. And my oven is heated to 425 right now. And it's going to cook in the oven at 425 for about 15 minutes. Now we're going to pour our filling in here, and I can tell you it is lipping full. I mean, I can't get another ounce in there. It's going to spill over the side. Oh well. Anyways, I'm going to get my cookie sheet, and we're going to put our pie on the cookie sheet. That way I can get it out to the oven without spilling it, maybe. And I've got my little crust shield here from Pampered Chef. If you don't have one, you can just put aluminum foil around your crust just to keep it from burning, because it's going to cook a pretty good while in the oven. It's going to cook 15 minutes at 425 for 15 minutes. So it's been cooking for 15 minutes at 425. So now we're going to lower the oven to 350. And we're going to cook it at 350 for about anywhere from 45 to 50 more minutes. So, okay, we are going to make some whipped topping for our pumpkin pie. Now, the first thing I always do is I try to remember to put my little stainless steel bowl that I always do my whipped topping in. I try to always remember to put it in the freezer, and I put my beaters in the freezer too. So let's get those out. I learned this trick cooking in the cafeteria at school, because years ago when we made so much homemade in the school cafeteria, I'm trying to think, there were several different desserts that we would serve that we would make whipped topping for, and one of them even was a frosting that we'd make for cake. And we always took our huge stainless steel mixing bowl, and we would take it out to the big walk-in deep freeze and put it in there, and with our big beater that went to it too, and that's how we would mix up our whipped topping. But we're not going to be making that much today. But I am going to get my heavy cream out, and you can do this with coconut cream. I know a lot of people can't have dairy, and they use coconut milk and coconut cream. And if you've ever made whipped topping out of coconut cream, it is so good, so good. I really like it. But anyways, I've got a little bowl here that's been in the freezer, and our beaters, so everything's good and chilled and cold. It just helps to set your whipped topping up a lot better. I'm going to get my measuring cup. So we're going to measure out 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. You know, a lot of people, I remember growing up, we ate Cool Whip, and there's nothing wrong with Cool Whip. And, you know, there's a lot of times that I had to use it for some of my desserts that I make. But if you've ever made homemade whipped topping, there's just no, it's the best. There's just no comparison to Cool Whip and whipped topping. So we're going to put our cup of heavy cream in there. And first off, what I'm going to do before I add my sugar is I'm going to whip this. And you want to do it start out slow and gradually just get it on up there a little bit higher. Because if you start out high, you're going to have heavy cream all over the place. Okay, our whipped topping is getting to that point of starting to get thick. So what I'm going to do is turn it on low, and then I'm going to add a half a cup of powdered sugar. I'm going to go ahead and add it. And then I'm going to mix that up a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to add, just to give it just a little bit of that special touch, since it is pumpkin pie, let's add just a little bit of cinnamon to it. Probably just about, maybe a fourth of a teaspoon. You don't want to put too much. And you don't want to overbeat this, or you'll have the beginning of homemade butter. So here we're going to put about a half a teaspoon of vanilla. And we are about done. There we go. Gotta quit beating. It's going to get too stiff on me there. It's going to be so delicious. Pumpkin pie and whipped cream with just a little bit of hint of cinnamon and vanilla in there. And there is our whipped cream. Just about right. So, how about we cut us a piece of pie and taste it? Okay, let's taste it, see if it's any good. Pumpkin pie with whipped topping. That's so delicious. That fresh pumpkin, that is really good stuff. I don't know if it's because I haven't had pumpkin pie in a while. I don't know, but this is larapin. And if you don't know what larapin means delicious. So, I hope y'all liked my recipe. If you never made a fresh pumpkin pie, it's so worth it. But even if you don't have access to some really good pumpkins, you can use this same recipe using canned pumpkin. So y'all try it. It's really good. I'm going to be having some more fall recipes, and a lot of them is going to be using pumpkin because I want to get them out there before the holidays are over. That's what's been happening to me the last couple of years. We've been doing this YouTube for a couple of years, and seems like I can't never get caught up, but I'm working on it. So cheers, everybody. Make you some pumpkin pie. It's delicious. God bless everybody, and have a wonderful weekend.